What about, so one of the things I would like to talk to you about that comes up a lot with self-employed, when people go employed to self-employed, is around restricted covenants.
Yes.
So, people spend a long time in an employed position and build very strong relationships, whether they be introducers, whether they be clients, very much they become friends. And, restricted covenants, non-dealing clause, non-solicitation clause. I mean, we sign ourselves away, don't we, when we're employed? So when you move from an employed background, what was your sort of strategy for year one? Because you've got to pay the bills, you've got to bring some client money in.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. What was your, I'm not asking you here to divulge if you've broken any restricted covenants or anything like that.
But, were you wearing a wire? No. Yeah. I'll divulge anything.
But this is something that people are nervous and worried about, So, what was your experience about client acquisition within the first year, old and new?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're always ultra cautious about stuff like that, and it's just one of those things, isn't there, where that sort of stuff can ruin your life. So we've always sort of trodden very carefully with all of that type of stuff. I was very lucky actually because my for the first time in my career, in the last employed role that I had before this, I insisted on existing clients being carved out of restrictions. Nice. And I would absolutely recommend. I mean, it's one of those things, you should definitely do if you're an advisor with a client following, and some of those will be friends and relatives and stuff, and you have the right to take those clients on. I think. I mean, I know that employers probably say, well, you're being, our budgeting is kind of geared around the fact that you've got a client following. I don't really like that approach to employing people anyway. I just think, why should you come in and be cost neutral straight away as an employee? But I guess that's another thing. I think I would, I wished I'd done it before, because I was put in difficult positions with restrictions, like a lot of advisors have been, where you build these really, really strong relationships with clients. They, bless them, they follow you, and then they're caught by your general restrictions because you've happened to change employers, and everyone knows full well that the relationship primarily is with you, and clients probably see their best chance of continuity with you. But they'll insist on keeping them there for that period, and it can be an awful customer experience, I think, because often the thing about that is, I guess in a way, if that happens and clients are getting crawled all over us because they want to, the firm wants to retain their business, then it's kind of fair enough, because at least they'll be getting some degree of service. But often what happens is they're parked. There'll be clients who just get, the firm will be very threatening about the enforcement of these covenants, but clients don't get a phone call for 6 months or 12 months, and I've seen this happen, and that's just a really crap position to put somebody in. Not the advisor, the client, because they're not getting serviced properly, and potentially there's not the because the advisor might have left, their team might have left, there might not be the ability to service those clients properly. So I think that's the big issue, is actually it's not just between an advisor and a firm. The clients get caught up in it, and they can have a really crap experience that they never signed up for. And I do also think, from an advisor's perspective, I think a lot of advisors, it's not an even sort of contest when it comes to those discussions about covenants. So they'll be speaking to a new firm, and of course at that point, you're eager to say the right things, aren't you? And everybody loves each other when you're in the process of joining a firm. So it's a bit like a prenup, to sort of row that all back and say, actually, let's talk about what happens if I leave. I know I haven't joined yet, but it's not easy to have that conversation. You should definitely, and I would say this to advisors who've got a client following, you absolutely should have that awkward conversation, because it's your right to have it. And if a firm has a problem with that, then that's potentially not the right firm to join. It's hard to do, but I think that puts you in a different position then, because you don't have that kind of falling in space feeling for 6 or 12 months where you just don't have any of that income, but you've got clients who are perfectly happy to pay you that you just can't get hold of yet. Which I think is the norm. So I guess I'm very spoilt, really, because I didn't have to go through that, because I was able to, there was an innovation process, clients moved over. So there was a few months, I guess, of getting authorized and set up and getting clients over. So I did have that kind of, income goes from X to zero for, 2-3 months. And I guess we had staff costs as well, because I wanted to make sure that there was no sort of gap in income for the rest of the team. So that got kind of funded along with the setup costs. So it was scary, but the whole time I knew that it wasn't half as scary as it'd be if we weren't already in the process of migrating clients, and we couldn't even start that for X months. So yeah, it's an interesting area though, isn't it, covenants? I mean, as an employer, obviously I've got a slightly different, well, no, I don't have a different view on it, but I can sort of see it from the other side a bit.
It's like, it's very difficult to hold. It's very difficult